I'm still halfway through tonight's episode of the Timcast IRL. He's got this guy on there named Vaush. I can definitely say that even though I don't agree at all with socialism, conceptually or in practice, I don't find the guy too unappealing, right? So here's the issue I have, and Vaush, if you ever watch this, take this as just criticism, right? Doesn't mean anything. Like I said, I'm about halfway through the video. There's two things apparent to me, and is first and foremost, you don't understand how the government works. And it's frustrating with your ideas on how much power, or how Trump, portrays his power within the federal government. How much the federal government is not the United States. And just how it works. It's not too different than most organizations out there. The government, the president is the CEO, the chief executive of the government and all its departments. No different than any other CEO in any other organization being ultimately responsible and in charge for all of its departments. That CEO, if he wants to change the rules, can do it through an executive order, just like any other organization out there. Even me, when I had my own business at one time and I was the only guy, I would write executive orders to set the policy for the business because I was planning to scope it out larger sometime in the future. Anyways, I wanted those policies to be in place for if my company ever grew. That didn't happen because the economic downturn happened back in 2008, 2009, but c'est la vie. That chief executive can dictate what happens in those other departments. Employees of the government, it should be easier to fire them. It takes an act of God to fire a federal employee, or in this case, an act of the president. It is damn near impossible to fire federal employees. When you understand that the United States government is the single largest employer in this country, with all the different government agencies, all the contractors that, such as me, that work with the federal agencies, it is by far the single largest employer in this country. It employs a statistically significant portion of the population. So, Vaush, I would hope to... So you sound smarter for somebody like me that's never... I didn't know you existed until tonight, and I was just glad to see that somebody that, was going to disagree more with Tim was on the Timcast IRL. It was great, and I'm still, like I said, a little bit more than halfway through watching, and it's just a very long episode tonight, and I might have to go to bed. So first and foremost, learn about that. Second, my gut feeling is that you don't have any kids. When you're talking about the school districts, this money, you did say that money's not the problem or the solution in the school districts, but the school districts have plenty of money. The problem is that the Department of Education, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that, mandated that all the school districts have these large administrative burdens. Now, they have to have hundreds of people manage the school district. Half of the money for a school district goes to managing the school district per the Department of Education. All the money for education isn't going to education. Half of it's just going to bureaucracy. That didn't exist. I don't know whenever that started. Probably maybe 15 years ago. Who knows? And so right now, they've had, you even looking at small schools. Small town school has a high school, middle school, elementary school, and that's all the schools in the town. And then now there's double the population to that school district of like the administrative overhead of just managing those 3 buildings. When it used to be just like the superintendent's secretary, and the principals of the schools, and those principal secretaries, and maybe vice principals. It was like 10 people package, and they were kind of built into the schools already. Now you've got hundreds of people there to do paperwork for a school district. The administrative burden has more people doing paperwork to tell how the teachers are doing than teachers. Those people also get paid more than the teachers too. So there's all your fucking money for school districts. The second thing is that there's no grading of teachers. That's the biggest problem in the school districts. It has nothing to do with money. Teachers, I teach, and I adjunct at the university. Teaching is not a hard thing to do. You're passing on maybe some of your knowledge and experience, but by and large, passing on somebody else's information out of a book, right? You're trying to form a picture for these kids to learn from, and to spur on questions. The school districts. Sorry, I'm eating these Haribos. I shouldn't be. It's midnight, but I am. Teachers aren't graded. They can be the worst teachers. They can fail and fail and fail. But it's hard to catch a failing teacher because all the teacher has to do is pass the students. And now the teacher looks like he or she is successful, but the kids don't get anything out of it, right? Take, for instance, the high school my daughter graduated from last year. She more or less failed junior year. She actively made that choice just to spite me. Okay. But then all of a sudden she was running up to a roadblock that she wasn't going to be able to graduate. The high school let her take 6 classes in one, and a half a semester for half a year, whatever. So in that one half a year class, it was pretty much a study hall, compensated for 6 out of the 8 classes she had in junior year. And they gave her a magic pass on all of that. So she didn't have to go to summer school. She didn't have to do anything. She pretty much went to a study hall and passed a whole junior year. Schools are going to pass the kids because schools don't get money from the government if they don't pass the kids. Schools hire shitty teachers that can't teach the kids. The kids know that they can fail and they'll still pass, so they don't put any effort into it. Parents have very little input on this. They have to, in order to have parents have input on this, you have to pull your kids out of the school and homeschool them. And that is just sometimes an economic and logistical burden that a lot of families can't take on. Not initially anyways. You have to be very creative with it. However, a lot of parents are just lazy. They send their kids to school because that's what they're supposed to do. Kids know what they can get away with. Every kid knows what they can get away with. They press the limits all the time. They'll get shitty teachers. They know the shitty teacher is going to pass them because if the teacher fails too many students, well then it must be an issue with the teacher not teaching the students, right? Right. So kids will fail, but they will get passed. And then the school will pass them to make sure that they graduate on time, even if the kid's pretty much been a straight F student their entire academic career. Because if the school doesn't pass them, then they don't get money. They have people come in and look at them. Why? And then they have this whole administrative burden called the school district that are supposed to audit them. But the school district, they like their jobs. They like their free government jobs, right? So I would say, if you want to be more critical of government jobs, and I'm talking about somebody, I was a soldier for 24 years, been a contractor for a very long time. I've worked around the government pretty much my entire adult life, right? And other than owning my own business working for the university, and taking a break from contracting and doing some odd jobs here and there because I need some outside time. I've only worked the government, so it's not hard to understand. Government is very simple in how it works. Lots of great people that work in the government. There's also lots of lazy people. The issue isn't Trump firing people. The real issue is people can't get fired in the government unless it comes from the goddamn president. And if he do, it quite literally takes 1 to 2 years to fire a government employee. So a lot of times, nobody's going to put that much effort into it. They just pass them on to somebody else, and that person becomes a burden to. He's just a waste of taxpayer money, he or she. And these people know it too. They know that they're worthless, but they also know that nobody's going to really take the time to get rid of them. I just ask that you get smart on some of these topics. Tonight was the first time I ever heard of you. And you couldn't support your hate for some of the ideas with facts or knowledge on how things work. And I'm 100% with you not liking how things work, and you have concrete examples and so forth. But for me, you just lose a lot of credibility when you say you don't like something and you don't have nothing of substance to back it up. It's frustrating. It's kind of it lacks knowledge, I guess. It lacks a few things, right? So it lacks an integrity to just be mad at something because you want to be bad. If you want to be mad at something just to be mad at it, great. But then don't waste the time and waste people's time like mine just making things up or talking so vaguely and generally that we know that you're bullshitting, right? I'm all for a wide diversity of ideas. It's awesome. Just make them educated ideas, please. Alright. Just in case you ever see this. It's a critical rebuff of some of the things you're talking about tonight. And it's frustrating for somebody like me that's never heard of you before. And I could care less if you're a socialist, if you're whatever you were. I don't care if you're D, R, I, or yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. Have substance in your debate. Have substance. Take some time to talk to old grunts like me. Say, hey, how does shit work? We'll tell you. It's not a big deal. We'll tell you how it works. We'll tell you how there's chains of command. And we'll tell you it's no different than like a corporation, except the government doesn't make money, it spends money. We take taxpayer money, we're supposed to spend it with the best interest of the taxpayers in mind. That's why, like, every year during October, we do our reports. Like, I'm responsible for helping out with FSMA reports, for instance, and that gets reported to Congress to show that we're spending our money appropriately. We have our purpose and our reason behind it, and we're managing it. We're managing the products and the processes and the procedures that we're doing to help the people, right? And I think there's a third point I would bring up too. Maybe I kind of touched on this at the very beginning. Just because Trump has executive authority over the federal government doesn't give him executive authority over the United States, right? The governors have executive authority over their own state, no different than mayors and city councils do of cities. For me, also tonight, it seemed like you had a very large disconnect, thinking that the president has this overreaching ability to touch every American's life and dictate what they're doing, and that's hardly the case. And I wish he would be a little bit more educated on how this is. The great thing and I'm not supporting Trump in this, but I am kind of supporting Trump in this. I would support anybody that did this, that he's forcing the government back down to lower levels with his responses to things over the years. The things that you're saying, well, Trump hasn't done well, and yada, 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 and you're giving kind of vague examples of, are, I think, the same examples of when Trump says, not my responsibility, that's the governor's responsibility. You go to the governor, and the governor can talk to me if they need help, right? And he's shoving the responsibility back to where it goes. And when you're talking about he's the most authoritarian president, I disagree, because he's pushing the authority back closer to the people, where it belongs, where it should be. And people aren't used to this because the federal government has been grabbing power from people for a very long time, slowly slurping it away from the states, local jurisdictions, and so forth, and saying, oh, we'll take care of you, we'll take care of you, we'll be your big bosom to rest your weary head on. Please just get educated on some of these things. So when newcomers like me see you for the first time, we can disagree with what you're saying, but at least you have some credibility and you can talk in specifics. Specificity is a great thing to have. All right. Have a great night.